Welcome back to the Two Pointers Podcast. I'm Trevor Everett. You read the title right. If you were on playback.tv tonight when we reacted to the lottery, Josh Gupton will be joining me today to talk about the NBA lottery, of course, the draft lottery that just happened, his Hornets and how they ended up with number 2, presumably picking Scoot Henderson. We talk about that and other Hornet scenarios, as well as some other teams that won and lost in the lottery, some scenarios there for some of the prospects, as well as we do talk about the playoffs at the end as well. Super appreciative of the time Josh had to come back on. Got a full almost hour out of it. So super excited. Glad he was able to come back. Before we get into that, don't forget that the Two Pointers Podcast is presented by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the best ticketing app, so you know you're getting the best deal score. They provide you a score 1 through 10, green, yellow, red as well, to make sure that you are getting the best value for your seat and to make sure that you have the best experience at that event. You can also see a view of your seat right there in the app or online, SeatGeek.com. Click the link in the top of the description, takes you directly to purchase those tickets. Baseball games this summer, NBA playoffs. If you want to go see Victor Wembanyama next year, in San Antonio or otherwise, as well as concerts, whatever you're going to use it for. Link in the top of the description. Code 2 pointers, TWOPOINTERS. Code 2 pointers. Link in the top of the description. Get you $20 off your first purchase. Enjoy the show with Josh. As you might have seen on the playback.tv stream, we just unfortunately saw the Charlotte Hornets I get not fall to 2, but not get 1 basically and have their chance at Victor Wembanyama. But we're going to talk about what that entails today with obviously former co-host. Is that the term I can use or whatever term you want to introduce me or you as?
And
this is weird,
right?
It's weird for me as it is for you, but people are going to love this. The people that are in and out who are on this feed, you know who you are. You're going to be like, it's going to pop up on your podcast feed tomorrow morning. You're going to be like, with who? And I'm hoping that draws an audience because that'll be really fun. I'm excited about that result, but we haven't done this in a long time. We talk about basketball all the time, but this is a place where you're obviously, for the people listening and seeing the title, we just obviously reacted to the Hornets and the draft lottery as a whole, and how that result played out. And then I know that there's some NBA playoff stuff I got to ask you. So as we're recording this, you'll hear in a few minutes that we are recording this as the Lakers Nuggets game is going on. So subjectively, game 1 will have already happened when this goes up.
Go Nuggets.
Let's talk. Well, to get to that in a minute, let's talk about what just happened. So really quick, it was pretty, I think, what's the term people use? Pretty wash, pretty chalk. There you go. Chalk from literally the first 7 picks.
9.
Right? the first 7 picks, right? So Pelicans, Raptors, Thunder, Magic, courtesy of Chicago. I like saying courtesy of because it makes it sound even more like a stab to the team that gave it up. Courtesy of Chicago at 11 for Magic. Dallas gets 10, which means New York does not get their pick because it fell inside the top 10. Jazz at 9, Wizards at 8, Pacers at 7, Magic at 6, and then where it got weird, where it got weird really fast was Detroit being number 1, obviously tied for the top, but number 1, they fall from 1 to 5. Rockets go to 4. Blazers get into the top 3, and they get their choice at whoever's left of Victor and Scoot, potentially. We're going to talk about in a second. Your Hornets, of course, who I tried, as people were watching this on YouTube, I tried my best to just be as in the fandom as I could to help you bring all the juju. But honestly, 1 and 2 is a victory in this case, and we'll talk about that. But obviously, as what people are going to say, probably all the conspiracy theories are going to start up tonight. San Antonio gets the number 1 overall pick. For context of people who might not be NBA historians, the previous number 1 overall picks in Spurs history, 1987, David Robinson, who obviously went on to win multiple titles and is a Hall of Famer for San Antonio. And then, ever heard of the guy in 1997? His name might be Tim Duncan, one of the greatest players of all time, unanimously 10, 15 best players all time, number 1 overall. And now they have their chance at, I don't know how much they like Amen Thompson. Supposedly, from what people were saying, they like Amen, but they're probably going to take Victor Wembanyama. Let's just pretend like that's what's actually going to happen.
Brian Windhorst was asking Victor, so what are you going to bring to San Antonio next year on the broadcast?
Live in France. He's sitting in his living room with him, which is even weirder, by the way.
To let everyone know, it is signed and done. The Charlotte Hornets are on the clock at number 2.
Yeah. So that's a great segue. What do you want to happen? Even though if people who were on the live, shout out to Chris OB and the guys from Ball Game that were in there. But for those that were on the live, you know the answer. But let's just talk about it. What do you want to happen? And then would you be shocked if it didn't be what you are about to say out loud?
You know, when I was a kid, I used to ride this Red Razor scooter.
Oh, jeez.
All the
It's about to go south so quick. I love it.
No, that was the only funny thing I could think to say along the lines of Scoot Henderson. Um, my spot with Scoot Henderson, and it's about where I was a year ago, because I think he's been with G League Ignite 2 years, yeah?
Yep, this will be his second full year.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel about the same way I did with him before, like this past G League Ignite season, which was I think he's a better guard prospect than even Cade Cunningham. And if Wembanyama wasn't in the draft, I think he would go number one any year, really. Like he wouldn't have gone number one over Zion, but you can pick any draft in the last 5 years. He probably would have been number one in all of those. He would have gone number one instead of Edwards or LaMelo Ball, frankly. Um, and for as much as I love LaMelo as being our franchise player, to think like Scoot probably is a better prospect even to bring into the team to pair with him. Uh, that's what I want to do. I don't think that we should think, oh, well, we have a guard. Um, will I be shocked? No, because Charlotte sometimes tends to be one of those old mindsets of building a franchise. Had the Hornets not landed at number 3, which I think was the perfect spot for them to land in, it was better than landing at 1 or 2 because they would have done something dumb. They were going to pick James Wiseman 100%. Like they were going to pick Wiseman over Edwards and Ball. That's the kind of mindset that I'm talking about with this team. And so it definitely has me worried looking at a player like Miller with size that you think could play small forward moving forward. The only thing I can hope in their old mindset points is that they want to bring PJ Washington back, and he's only really a 4. I don't think he should play 5 all the time, and that Miller really is more of an NBA 4 than he is a 3. You may disagree with me on that.
I could
That's
care
not
less
where I
the
would
way the
place him
NBA
right
is
now.
now. I could care less. I think
Yeah, but it's
play.
like these are the thoughts that these front offices are going to think through.
I'm not
right?
shocked if a team plays him at the 2 for some rotational switches. Like I just wouldn't be shocked.
But I think it should be Scoot. Like the only other guard, like Terry's not going to be with the team long term. Book Night didn't pan out. The only long term guard they've invested in is Bryce McGowan's.
Shout out to Bryce McGowan's, by the way. I've been
I
on that
like
train.
Bryce.
Been on that train for a long
like
time.
Bryce can be a great second unit guy. While LaMelo and Scoot play. And LaMelo takes it like the ball should be in LaMelo's hands. He's one of the best pure passers, I think, in the NBA. He can just do high level things that no one else can, passing the ball. And then Scoot, I think, is an incredibly explosive, quick, and very talented scorer. Who's also has a lot of physicality to guard the shooting guard position, even if he might be a little bit undersized for NBA shooting guard.
So the position
it's my long-winded answer.
No, it's good. There's a lot to unpack there. This is what it's a starting block, and we'll keep going here. So a couple things. The first thing that came to my mind was like, obviously, last year, right? Keegan Murray is available. Jaden Ivey. What do we do? Yada yada. Or 2 years ago, whatever it is now. God bless. I get these draft classes all mixed up once they happen. But Keegan Murray's there, right? Mm-hmm. And it's we already have a couple guards. Do we really take Jaden Ivey? Do we figure it out? Yada yada yada, right? In the same case for the Hornets, do we have LaVelle and Ball? Does Scoot really fit at 6'2" without shoes? Yada yada. Whatever. Yes. We can talk about that. I agree. Which, by the way, that's why I'm not even bringing it up. But it's the same predicament where the tree had the same thing where we have Cade Cunningham. Does Jaden Ivey really make sense as a 2 guard? We'll figure this out. Yada yada yada. Sometimes you just got to take the best player available, and that is not like this long-winded like philosophical. I'm not over here. I'm not Homer here being like, you should do this, and this is the reason and the philosophy behind it. But like, they would be absolutely, I'm not going to say dumb to take someone else, but like, Scoot Henderson's the best guard prospect I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Like, that's without a doubt. And that includes John Wall. That includes people that were in our area. Like, I can't discredit everything Scoot's been able to show. And I'm not going to sit here and talk about the Hornets scenarios. That's not why I'm here. I do think it's I'm just going to float the hypothetical of how scary it is, and we'll talk about some other scenarios in a second, but with some of these other teams. But I'm not comparing the two guys in any way, but I remember a very
You're going to say something
famous.
that's going to make me upset, aren't you?
No, we can talk about it, but I remember a very famous draft that involved a guy that is now a top 75 player in NBA history, according to NBA 75, in that list that was put out. Anthony Davis went number 1 overall in 2012. The Charlotte Hornets had the number 2 overall pick. I am not saying Bradley Beal was Scoot Henderson, but Bradley Beal was available, and they took Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. And I'm not saying Brandon Miller is Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, but you're talking to the guy, Josh, that has had Brandon Miller no higher than 5 the entire year. You know that. I've said the board many times. I'm a Jarris Walker, Cam Whitmore, and the other 2 guys ahead of him, and that may change. I really deep dive All-Star Thompson recently, and I'm starting to be really in. But I think Brandon Miller is really good. I think the positional size is great. I think the shooting's great. I think there's some question marks there about some of the rim finishing and other things that I think will translate long term, and I think he'll grow into his body. But there are guys that sometimes, and I think in the draft community, this is where I'll land the plane and won't be super long-winded, but is I think people get so defensive about placement of and be like, you think this guy is terrible. It's I like the guys ahead of him better, and I think they're all NBA translatable guys if they're in the top 5. Heck, I think they're all translatable if they're in the lottery. Every guy I have in the lottery, I think, is a translatable NBA player. The point I make is I have a friend in the community, Dexter, who has Anthony Black ranked 25th right now, right? He's not saying Anthony Black is terrible. By the way, I completely disagree. I have Anthony Black at 15. So, like, that's a pretty big disparity, right? Most people have Anthony Black near the top 10. So the point is he's not saying Anthony Black sucks. He's not saying this guy sucks and that guy sucks. I'm not saying if they take Brandon Miller that he's going to suck. The point is you have the opportunity where I'm going to actually land the plane. You have an opportunity to draft a generational guard that other than Zion Williamson's draft would be a number 1 overall pick in the last 10 NBA drafts. And I'm not even looking at another screen that shows the drafts. I would confidently say he would be the number 1 overall pick in every single draft except for Zion's draft in the last decade.
I agree.
So I don't understand. I mean, I think you actually kind of lucked out. You didn't get 1, and you were like, okay, but 3 would have been perfect for this reason, that reason. They would have had their choice of this guy or that guy, but you had the opportunity, and you just have to trust your franchise to make the opportunity work. That's, I think, where I've landed in the last 20 minutes since we stopped being live to where we talked about now. And I'm just like, you know what? You have to trust them. That's it.
I think, like, the other things that come into this is everything for Charlotte. I mean, that's what I'm here to react to, so I'm going to focus on that quite a bit.
Don't worry, we'll get to other teams.
It's going to circle around them picking second. There's so much more to this draft and offseason to Charlotte than the number 2 pick.
Yep.
They're picking 27th for the Nuggets pick that we got when we sent Jalen Duren to Detroit.
Somehow that's a Nuggets pick, which is so beautiful about the NBA.
Detroit had the pick. I don't know, man.
It's just great that Denver is all of a sudden
like, when we sent number 13 last year, we got like 3 second rounders in the Nuggets first round pick this year, which is 27.
Somehow that happened. Yeah, got you.
And then I think 2 of those second round, we're picking 3 times in the top half of the second round.
I could spend 3 hours on y'all's draft. Like I really could. There's
so we're going to bring in, unless we trade, which is an option because although we're going to have 5 roster spots. Like,
fair.
If we wanted to, we could draft and take all 5 of our guys.
The math is adding up for them taking all 5, which would just be crazy. But
it is something they could do, and I like a lot of the options that are down there. There's definitely like. What's interesting is that Marcus Sasser was a guy that got mocked a lot at 27, and if we take Henderson, Sasser's probably off the board for Charlotte at 27. I think they hope for a Leonard Miller fall at that point.
Oh, this is good.
There's a lot more stuff into that. Sorry.
No, hold on. No, I like this though. I'll ask you before we transition.
Those are just like I've obviously been watching Charlotte. Like with the season we went through, there wasn't a lot for me to look forward to than the draft day for Charlotte and free agency in the offseason.
It's understandable.
So this is what I've been looking like every day. I was running the lottery. I was looking at where guys were falling in the range of our picks. And I know that, like, in 27, I know very well that Sasser and Miller are, like, the big names given as a Charlotte opportunity. It might not be in either of them at 27. Henderson and Miller wouldn't be a bad place to go, especially since Miller had a great combine. But
had a great year of the G League with teammate Scoot Henderson also.
Scoot Henderson.
Potential team.
But we can cycle back around. And as far as like the placement and fit, like because everybody I know in the draft community, because it's an easy thing to mock. It was like Mark Williams to Charlotte last year because we didn't have a center. Is going to say Brandon Miller would be a great small forward placement next to LaMelo Ball. Oh, the Hornets aren't going to take a guard to go with them. I think people need to circle back. Some people didn't think Charlotte should take LaMelo Ball the year we took him because, oh, they've got two great guards in Terry Rozier and Devontae Graham.
Which would have clearly been a mistake.
That happened. That was real conversation.
Yeah.
Charlotte has been very willing to play two small guards side by side in their rotations. Went to the playoffs doing that.
Yeah. That's the last playoff appearance. Yeah.
It's not that weird.
It can happen.
So I hope that that's the direction they'll go. I obviously don't know what our scouting team's looking at or anything along those lines. But it's interesting. Like, we're not the first pick, but in the same way with the Carolina Panthers for the last few months, the team in Charlotte is the one that's going to be on the clock leading into draft day because we already know who the Spurs are taking. So
yeah, I'll throw out this because I want to talk a few about some other teams as well, and I'll get your final thoughts on the Hornets. But obviously, a lot can change, a lot can happen. Scoot.
I'll say
Brandon
also,
Miller.
it's not gonna for anyone listening. It's not going to be anyone other than Henderson or Miller.
Yeah,
Like, that's just
that
not
needs to be
not possible.
Yeah, that needs to be addressed because it's not gonna.
It really ends there. Like
it'll get weird.
Yeah.
People will start making that stuff weird, and it doesn't need to be said like that. I like that you brought up 27. There's a lot, and we're not going to go through all the second rounders and stuff, but I'm going to give you, just for the context of the fact that you're talking to me, you're not talking to 70 other people that did mocks on their 27th overall pick. I'm going to give you the guys 3 spots ahead of 27 on my board and 3 spots behind and 27, and give me 2 guys that you would like or one that you would absolutely love out of that group. So 24 and this is before the June/final update that I'll put out before June 22nd, of course. So this is all what people would have been able to read already at houseenterprise.com. Derek Lively at 24, Trace Jackson Davis at 25. I have an answer, by the way. I'm gonna let you answer, and I'm curious where we line up. Derek Lively at 24, Trace Jackson Davis 25, Kobe Buffkin, 26, Ryan Rupert at 27, Chris Murray 28, Deron Holmes 29, and Furman's Jalen Slauson at 30. So I can read those back again, but a lot of different styles and fits and wings there and bigs and a couple guards. There's a good handful of guys there. I love all these guys a lot, by the way.
The two that kind of stick out to me the most are, one would be TJD. I think
right. We're on the same page.
The Hornets will re-sign Washington because they've been very vocal about wanting to do that.
Yep.
You've got Mark, who showed he came along a bit later on. I know Steve Clifford loves Nick Richards, and I like Nick Richards. But Nick Richards might be showing the best he's got right now.
Fair.
And if that's the best he's got, it's just frankly not the future of the rotation. As much as I love Nick Richards. Trace Jackson Davis, I think, could be a great third big into that rotation with PJ and Mark. And so I think that would fit very well. The other one I like is Rupert.
Right at 27, funny enough.
Yeah, I think now I'm not as polished in on him, but it's a bit more of, I definitely favor the European guys a lot, and I think he's got the versatility to be a wing, which is probably where we're the weakest with the will they, won't they with Gordon Hayward and wherever that's going to land, and kind of our undersized guards, having someone that can slot into the middle of the lineup, not the big man, not the ball carriers, but just somebody slot in there in the middle, maybe work his way in the rotation.
He is a 6'6" wing.
Yeah, so exactly what. Yeah,
hold on.
It would be
with a 7'2" wingspan. Let me just
see perfect. Exactly.
Like literally, you're gonna play
exactly what I'm looking for.
And you're going to be like, wait a minute, what? You're going to play him at the 4. You're going to play him like the PJ Washington role. PJ's what, 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", like he's somewhere in there?
The crazy part of it would be if you play him at the 3, and it's hard for other teams to get their 3 unlocked to score because he's dealing with a 7'2" wingspan.
The issue is he's 18 years old, and his offensive game has a lot to be desired. And obviously, you're in a position where
you're
to win. So it's okay.
But it's like Scoot, which I'm just going to be optimistic and say we're picking Scoot.
For this scenario, you have to. Yeah.
Yeah. Scoot will be on the team depending. I don't know what's going to happen with Terry Rozier in the offseason, but let's assume nobody wants to take Terry or Gordon's contract, so we'll keep them on the team for next year. Scoot will be sixth man starting next season in Charlotte. That's just the Hornets thing, the thing they do. I think he'll get in the rotation before the season ends. It'll be just like Ball, where Ball started out sixth man
Interesting.
and then took Devontae Graham's spot. I think Scoot will start out sixth man. They'll move him in. They'll probably pitch off Rozier for nothing eventually by the deadline. 27 down, probably going to play a lot of swarm games
Oh
for the
yeah.
Hornets next
I
year.
mean, Jalen Slauson, selfishly, I would love
So
to be there.
talking about a guy like Rupert, I don't really like you're picking at 27. That's the point where 27 you start to look around and you can ignore some weaknesses out of guys. You take some guys with some crazy skills with the high upside. You might go to somebody who's older but just still sitting there on the board who you think might help right away. You're not looking for a perfect prospect out there. And a guy like Rupert would get a lot of reps to develop in Greensboro. In Greensboro, as much as people like to hate on Charlotte for not playing the rookies right away, Greensboro has developed guys for the Hornets. Like Graham turned from an expected as nothing prospect to an NBA starter that was then traded to use for a pick last year. That I think Graham, if you follow the talent acquisition, is now Bryce McGowan's for the Hornets because of what they did in Greensboro. Like the Graham acquisition turned into McGowan's, or it got traded again, whatever.
All that
So
being
I like
said,
the idea.
I think there's a lot of really good options. Obviously, you mentioned the Nick Richards thing. I don't want to go too far into it because I want to ask about some other teams really quick. But you mentioned some stuff about, what the Nick Richards role looks like. Obviously, Trace Jackson Davis as a passing big man is unbelievable. And I think he measured shorter, regardless of shoes, he measured shorter. So he'll probably play the 4 in the NBA more than he would probably like to have. I mentioned Derek Lively. I don't think that makes any sense, even though I think there's value there. A guy for a long time I thought really was really good in any situation would be De'Ron Holmes. And then I think after seeing the measurements and the guy I believe in the most out of those guys, Jalen Slauson, I think that would be an unbelievable pick. Wouldn't move far down the road from Furman, of course. I think he would be unbelievable. The problem is he would be a 24 he would be a 24-year-old come season start. And I don't know how many guys you're going to want
Yeah.
him to play. You're going to want him to be the 8th, 9th, 10th
Yeah, and it's
guy.
like somebody that comes in at 24 is someone that he's not going to go to Greensboro. Clearly,
They need to play. No, I think he's
Yeah,
NBA ready right
he
this
would
moment.
play right away.
He should.
But it's like if you're 24 being picked in the late first round, like only NBA ready guys at that age should be picked in the late first round.
This doesn't just apply to Slauson. I mean, there are plenty of guys
Mm.
that this could have been for, but like he could have been he could have been a first rounder last year too. I mean, all things considered, but I like that he went back to Furman and they made a run in the tournament and really got to put it out there on a good stage. So I don't want to spend forever on Jalen Slauson. Any last words on anything about the Hornets that would have impacted from tonight's lottery? Otherwise, I have a few questions really quick on some of the other lottery teams, and then we'll get to the playoff talk.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question I have is if we're just going to say very obliviously that you mentioned earlier that Detroit, fell, obviously. We know some of the results there already. It went pretty chalk otherwise. Spurs take Victor, Hornets take Scoot. The Blazers probably take Brandon Miller. Yes. Dame situation or not, assume they don't trade Dame, assume they keep the pick. It's probably Brandon Miller.
Yeah, I mean, I think Miller is far safer than taking any of the other guys.
Okay, so setting the scenario up, that's why I asked that question. I assume let's just make it fun that Brandon Miller's gone. Who the heck do the Rockets pick it for? That's actually one of the biggest question marks here. The Pistons can take whoever they want. They can take Taylor Hendricks, Jarris Walker, any of the Thompson twins. Who do the Rockets take? What makes sense if you're the Rockets? If you're the Rockets, what do they do?
They're probably kicking themselves right now. They don't know really.
I think they should take Jarris Walker. I really do.
Yeah, I mean that'll be the popular hometown pick, right?
I didn't even
I
think
think
about
they
that.
look long and hard at the Thompson twins
Yeah,
because
I like that.
sure they're projects. Well, Rockets roster is a bit of a project as it stands right now.
They're not going to win 30 games for another year at
No,
least.
so it's like as far as teams that could take the guys with the super high ceilings and the low floors, which is the Thompson twins, they're just big question marks because we don't really know anything about OTE.
Yeah.
People will claim they know stuff about OTE. We don't really know, really. I mean, we've had the G League long enough to understand what that competition level is. There's nothing to compare. We're going to find out what OT competition level is when the Thompson twins hit an NBA floor next year.
So now that the Rockets stuff is there, Detroit, like I said, has their. I mean, they just have this. They're honestly. I know 1-5 is really tough. Pistons fans, I really am. I feel bad for you, but I mean, you're basically going to get to be like, if they've got Osar Thompson 2 on their board, he's going to be there at 5 probably. Like they're going to have their pick of their guy. Basically, is my point. Taylor Hendricks, Jarris Walker, any of the Thompson twins. I mean, there's other guys that I'm just like not thinking about right this moment. My board's not on the screen, but the Magic
Whitmore.
at 6, Pacers at 7. Whitmore, thank you. Who I think would fit any of these teams really, really well. So Pistons at 5, Magic at 6, Pacers at 7, the Wizards at 8. They still won't draft a point guard, even though they're in a place where they'll probably be able to take their best possible option would be any point guard available. The Jazz at 9. The team I want to end with, because I'd love to just save the time for another show to do like a mock and actually really think through these decisions now that we know what it is. But like, I'm not going to sit here and ask you to predict Sam Presti. I'm not going to sit here and ask you to predict Masai Ujiri. I'm not going to ask you to predict who the heck the Pelicans are going to take at 14, as a potential playoff team. Dallas, as a team that's probably going to lose Kyrie Irving unless they do some kind of weird sign and trade or keep him back. The future in Dallas right now in the next 9 to 12 months is very uncertain. So assuming that pick is probably not moved for a star, which by the way, 100% could be the case. They could absolutely, this pick could be leveraged between now and June 22nd, and they trade for somebody and it get weird very quickly. Who's somebody you think is very valuable for a team like Dallas that last year obviously faltered, and that's why they're in this position at this 10th overall pick, but the year before they're in the Western Conference Finals. So what is this perfect? Is there a perfect answer for number 10? I can give you some names so you don't have to sit there and kind of search through them, but like,
I was going to pull up my draft board.
I'd have to go off my board. Like, obviously, I'm only going to use my board as the one that's for context here. But like Casey Wallace, Chet Howard, Keontae George, Traquavion Smith, Anthony Black, Jalen Hood-Schifino, Jordan Hawkins, Gigi Jackson, Bilal Coulibaly are all guys within 7-ish picks of number 10.
So
obviously the Thompson twins, but they probably won't be there.
I think if you're Dallas, you're looking for another scorer.
I like this. The direction. I like that you're like, where's the direction that they go?
Who's not a primary ball handler.
So Jed Howard's the answer.
Could be. I like Jet.
He's the perfect answer for that question. He really is. I have him at 10.
I think there's a look that you take to a Keontae George or
I think that
a Grady
would be huge.
Dick or a Jordan Hawkins.
There you
go. Basically shooting guards is what I'm saying.
I think Keontae's good though, because like I like this. Here's why.
Off-ball shooting guards.
Off-ball shooting, and also his playmaking flashes at Baylor this year are going to be really, really undervalued. I think people are going to wake up and see, like, as people start to really wake up from the playoffs and they're like, oh, the draft's here. I need to actually study the draft. They're going to look at Keontae George. They're going to hear the name, potential top 10 guy going into the year. His playmaking flashes were unbelievable at Baylor. So, like, that's another guy where Luka's going to be on the floor and someone's going to have to pass the ball and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying immediately.
I mean, obviously, I bet Dallas is wishing they could select Jalen Brunson, but he's unfortunately not up for selection.
Slander. I'm here for it. Dallas Mavericks.
It's not slander. They're I mean, Luka said he missed him.
they let him walk.
Their star guards said in a press conference that he missed him. It's not slander. It's the fact.
Yeah, that's fair. They offered. I mean, they literally they offered him 4 for $75 at one point. I mean, it's just crazy. Like anyway. All right. Anything else in the lottery that piqued your interest? I know you were very, very intently looking at your own team: Spurs, Hornets, Blazers.
I think
Rockets.
It was interesting as chalky. I think one thing that came to mind for me that I really wasn't thinking of earlier. So let's talk about Oklahoma City for Grayson.
Okay.
Give me a second. I'm going to pull up.
I thought you were going to go.
The Magic have 2 picks. Find that graphic about OKC's draft picks over the next 4 years.
They have 25 picks in the next 5 years.
But I'm just trying to find the one about their first round, like their near lotto picks for the next few, because it's actually crazy. Either way, like right now, the way things are pitching, kind of towards next season in the 2024 draft, the Thunder are probably going to have 3 lottery picks. The Thunder don't need those picks because this team is looking ready. SGA, Giddey, Holmgren, the 2, I'm embarrassed, I'm blanking. The 2 guys with the same names. Jalen Williams. Sorry.
Jalen Williams and Jalen
Yeah.
Williams. And by the way, they have a chance to take another. There is a Jalen Williams that is
That's
draft
quite
eligible this year.
hilarious.
That they have like 52nd round picks. There is a Jalen Williams this year that is draft eligible, and
I feel like they might just because it's funny.
I've seen him ranked on some boards in the 50s. So like,
Yeah.
just throwing that out there, they might have 3 Jalen Williams on their roster.
Mhm.
Just want to make people know that could happen. But yeah, go keep on the Thunder point. I know where you're going with this.
They might want to trade up or trade out, but
Not
like
what I
if
thought you were going with it.
you got to think: is there anyone that the Thunder will have to think? Is there anyone you're in love with up on the top side? And are there teams who are ready to like really blow things up? Portland.
Portland's the 3.
Dame has finally said that he
The
doesn't.
3 pick though.
He's not sure anymore.
I don't know. The 3 pick makes it weird.
Portland, but if you're Portland, you're going to be like, okay, we could take Brandon Miller here and try to save Dame, or we could blow it up. We could pick at 12, and we could pick 3 times in the lottery next year.
Okay, so yeah, look, I can't sit here and predict Sam Presti because there's probably a guy at 12 that he absolutely adores.
I bet you that he is calling Charlotte. I guarantee you Kupchak's going to talk to him. I'll go that crazy as it. I'm not saying anything's going to happen. But from where Charlotte's at, I guarantee Charlotte's probably going to talk to Oklahoma City. They just have the capital
picks.
To throw that weight around at this point.
They do. Oh, and that's the thing. Like, there's no Godfather offer that's unsafe. Mm-hmm. There's no Godfather offer that's off the table, other than for Victor, probably.
Other than for, I don't think that they could get San Antonio to budge.
I don't think they can legally trade 25 picks, and that's what it would take to get Victor. Like, just put
but the thing is, would they even then? Like, it's 25 picks to pick 25 players who you know aren't going to be as good of prospects as the guy that you basically have.
Yeah. All right. Let's hit. It's so like the Thunder. I could sit here and be like, Taylor Hendricks is going to slip. And then I'm like, that would be dumb. There's no way he's slipping, but I'm just not going to let that happen in my mind. I would love that for Grayson, who literally sent me a highlight clip of Taylor Hendricks today in a text. So I'm like, dude, look, I'm with you. And I know that the Thunder chats, shout out to those guys on Twitter, that I know that they're all in on Taylor Hendricks, but it's just, I mean, I'm sorry, but if he was a sleeper most of the year, like he had been to start the year, he would probably float somewhere at 12 and like the Jalen Williams last year, right? He'd be the perfect, right? Oh, this is this guy. I wouldn't be shocked if a team loves him so much and they draft him at 5 or 6. Like, I just wouldn't be shocked if, the Magic take him at 6, right? Staying there in town actually would be really funny. Detroit, right? The Isaiah Stewart replacement, right? Really athletic guy of that size and can shoot better than Isaiah Stewart. I mean, that's just a world of difference upgrade there. The Pacers, I think he'd be an unbelievable fit next to Miles Turner. So I think there's teams that and I can't wait to do a mock soon because there's just so many teams I'm going to mock Taylor Hendricks to, and it won't be my pick. And I'm going to be whatever pick I get, I'm going to be like sitting here waiting like, Taylor Hendricks is on a silver platter. So as a Taylor Hendricks truther, I do think that would be an unbelievable pick at 12, but I just don't think he's going to be there. So sorry, Thunder fans. All right, so as we're recording this, the Nuggets and the Lakers are in the second quarter. Jokic had over 10 rebounds in the first quarter. So there's some unbelievable things happening. I believe as I'm looking at this right.
MVP.
Yeah, last time you were on, you said it. So,
did I?
But yeah, I think so. But regardless, the Nuggets are up 13. Obviously, this game is in Ball Arena in Denver, so a lot of things there. So we'll talk about that really fast, but obviously I'm contextualizing the fact that this is happening. Game 1's result will have already happened by the time this podcast goes up tomorrow morning. So keeping that in consideration, what is something right now, regardless of what we know through 2 quarters, what is something that, and I think the way I worded the question, I want to make sure, because this is what I thought through as a Lakers fan. What is Denver's biggest challenge against the Lakers?
Physicality inside, probably. There's not really a guy like, I know Denver was gonna have DeAndre Jordan play a lot at one point in the season, and that didn't work out, obviously.
Yeah.
And so they kind of are left without someone who's big and physical, and LA is big and physical on the inside if Anthony Davis is healthy. And so I think that would be the biggest challenge. Jokic can get physical, But once again, I mean, he's a unicorn who kind of flows in and out of the game, in and out of the paints and around everywhere. So it's not like you've got that big, heavy, muscled, stout rim defender on the inside all the time.
So I'll ask the question the other way around because I do think it's important contextually. Excluding to the two-time MVP, should be three-time MVP, Nikola Jokic, what is the Lakers' biggest challenge from Denver?
There's not much they can do about their biggest challenge, but the biggest issue that they're probably going to face is that when hot, Jamal Murray is probably the best 3-point shooter in the NBA. When
I
he's
know what
hot,
you. I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
like when he's on, because he gets on streaks and he'll knock down everything, and there's not a lot you're going to be able to do if he does.
He's gonna have a
Um,
50 burger one day.
and I
Like he's
say
just
that
gonna have
because
one.
like I remember the Jamal Murray pre-draft process, and he broke Steph Curry's 100 threes, and it was a how many threes can you make without missing two in a row? Like he just blew Steph's record out of the water when Steph was doing that. Like Steph recorded like a 44 or something, like 44 threes without missing two in a row. And then Jamal Murray went in the pre-draft process and he did the drill and he got 75.
Hmm. Like we know what Jamal Murray is in the playoffs when he's healthy, and he's shown that this run. That's why they won most of their series, pretty comfortably. I know they
Mm-hmm.
had what 5 against Minnesota, and then they obviously had, when you have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker on the other teams, you're going to put up a fight in some form or fashion,
Yeah,
regardless of the 38-point blowout that Denver put up in
too
Phoenix.
much
But
talent to not put up a fight.
Denver knows what they are now, and that's what's scary about them. The example I give,
They're
and
the
I'm trying
most
not to.
complete basketball team left.
To a perfect example though, I hate to lean on the what I'm looking at on my other screen over my monitor here, but their bench has 7 points total. They're up 44-32 with 9 minutes left in the second, so it's a pretty significant margin. And their bench has 7 points, and Bruce Brown himself has 11. So they're already getting going and seeing those rotational pieces, which has been the Lakers' advantage since the trade deadline, was those
Mm-hmm.
rotational pieces figuring it out. I got a chance to see them live in person against the I get it, it's the Houston Rockets, but I got to see them against the Houston Rockets in Houston, right? And Anthony Davis
Mm-hmm.
puts up obviously his stellar whatever performance he's going to put up against a bad team. He put up a triple double, or he put up a 40 point 20 rebound game. LeBron had a triple double. Like we know what we're going to get out of them, but then like to see what some of the role players were able to do and function as. I think Denver has that advantage, and that's what the Lakers' advantage has been for so many months now. So shout out to Darvin Ham, who shaved his beard for this game. I don't know if that's good juju or bad juju. So far, it's not like good juju, but um, I think my biggest thing for Denver is they're going to really have to understand when Jokic is, when basically when the Lakers are just throwing whatever they can at Nikola Jokic, he's got to know exactly how to lean on X, Y, and Z player. In the case of Jamal Murray, whatever, like you said
Mm-hmm.
earlier, though, like he shapes himself to the game and he can kind of play. And that's what makes him so
Yeah.
unique.
I think like I would probably, from a defensive perspective, throw my same strategy out that I usually throw to teams playing Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I wouldn't waste all my time focusing on stopping Nikola Jokic. It's like I would advise teams playing the Bucks, don't waste your time on trying to stop Giannis. He's
Yeah.
too good. Jokic is too good of a basketball player to not figure it out or get his. Try to stop Murray and Porter.
And Bruce Brown, apparently.
Because we've seen in the past, Jokic can't win on his own. No basketball player can win on their own. MVP Joel Embiid with James Harden didn't get past the semifinals on their own. No guy is good enough to win by himself. Jokic will get his, and he's going to break you down. Try to stop the other two, and maybe you can get your shot there.
Yeah, I don't want to spend forever, but like, I mean, whether you've listened to this show or not in the last couple of months, the point being I'm about to make is that the part I make about Jokic and such strong defense is that this is like we're seeing, by the way, Anthony Davis just had a ridiculous block on Jokic in the post. So that's good stuff to see there. But we're seeing something like we literally haven't seen a guy do something like this since Larry Bird. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's understated enough where if Jokic gets through all the people that want to sit here and be about this or that, about the two-time MVP and shouldn't have been third, and he wasn't, obviously. The point I'm making is if he gets through LeBron, I don't care if he's 38 years old, if he gets through a healthy Lakers team, which they are currently through game one, if he gets through a healthy Lakers team and can win the finals, I mean, this completely
Well, it's funny is like
alters
looking like
trajectory.
his way to the finals. Like, all right, well, he slayed the beast that is Kevin Durant, and now he's gonna have to slay the beast that is LeBron James on his way to the NBA Finals. Like, you beat two guys on the NBA 75 list to get to the NBA
You beat
Finals.
3. Anthony Davis is on that list.
Yeah, so Davis too. Yeah, like it would be remarkable. Like, I mean, I made the joke to you and to a lot of other people when it was before they announced who the MVP was, and I said they're going to give the MVP to Joel Embiid, and then Nikola Jokic is going to win Finals MVP to make the haters cry.
It's funny you say
And I
that.
think like we're heading that way.
I've picked all year. I've picked my finals, and there's the receipts are there in text threads on this podcast. I've picked Boston, Denver all year. That has been my pick all year.
Oh, I know it is. I remember a conversation with you in late
Hold on, though.
September when you told me the Nuggets were the best team in the West, and I didn't believe you.
Verbatim, though, I said that Boston would win that matchup most of the time. As it's currently constructed, which is why I think context of these conversations are really important. As I currently know everything I know about these two playoff series, I think Denver would win in 5.
I think Denver's better than the other three teams by
Right.
a lot. Now, anybody can win in a 7-game series. Like, you can get
Any
out
of these teams
coached.
can technically win right now.
Yeah.
Like all these teams will win. We'll get to the
Um,
East in just a second. But
I mean, the best coach in the playoffs is coaching Miami.
yeah,
And
the coaching
that's
advantage
like
is
I
the worst
wouldn't
team
keep
right
him
now.
out on that sense. And I think you would say Miami has the guy who we'll call him Mr. Clutch, Jimmy Butler.
Hemi
Is the
Butler,
guy
as I
that
used to
comes
have on
through.
here. Hemi
Hemi Butler,
Butler. I used
yeah.
to have it written right there.
Hemi Butler. So you never know, but I like the Denver team. I've been a fan. It's also like looking back at it though, like I've just been a huge fan of this Denver team for like 5 years.
And to
They
all of a
were
sudden not
my.
be in on them is funny. For
I
me to
know,
pick them, it's funny. It's
yeah,
just funny.
but it is like if you like talk to my friends that I would play a lot of 2K with, the Nuggets were my go-to team in 2018.
Yeah,
Like for
true.
playing 2K. And so I've just loved the team inside and out for a while. So I'm gonna be rooting for them, obviously. And because like when you watch basketball, once your team's not in it, you're rooting usually for the guy that you think's the best because you love watching him. Um, Sometimes I had the ability to believe Tom Brady was the best and still not root for him. So I guess it's not always.
For the
But
most part, I like that example though. For the
but
most part,
like when I look
basketball, you do
around to
that.
like other games, like when I watch football, if the Panthers aren't in it, like I'll root for Patrick Mahomes. I think he's the best. I like to
Yeah,
watch him play.
fair. I think fair.
And baseball, like if it's not the Red Sox, like I want to see Otani do well. Crush bombs. I think he's
Yeah,
amazing.
that's fair.
Um, so it's just kind of a normal thing. And so like my team obviously is not in it. I think Nikola Jokic is the best player. I love watching him play. I want him to win.
I love this point though. This is something that like I think it's undervalued, especially in like this hater culture we're in, like on Twitter specifically, as well as in group threads that we're in together. But I think it's very important to point out that like there are people like you and I who are level-headed, like-minded people who enjoy basketball and want to see if our team's not winning, there is a guy or a team that we care about enough and want to see them succeed. For me,
Well,
that
I
would be
love
Devin
the sport
Booker.
of basketball. Like
Yeah,
even if my team's not there.
yeah. For me, it would be Devin Booker
Yeah.
and Nikola Jokic. I want to see those
Yeah.
two guys succeed. I really do. No, all jokes aside, I really want to
Oh
see
yeah,
those two
yeah.
guys succeed. They played against each other. I'm obviously at this moral conundrum because I'm going to see one of those two guys lose and one of them play my team in the next round, as we're seeing right now. So the point is it's so much fun that like this is obviously as a fan, this is where this halts for 7 games. So I'm gonna obviously
Yeah.
want my team to win.
You're a Lakers fan. You should root for the Lakers.
But the point is, I'm enjoying still watching Jokic kill my team. It's kind of funny. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, he's so good.
He's
And
so
yet I'm
good.
like, but he's doing it. Ah, crap. So I have to keep my fandom out of it. I'll land the plane with this. This series, I don't want to overthink, fan or not. I'm very careful about making predictions and stuff. But let's say the role players are even, because I really do think they are pretty even. I think it's just a perfect balance. I think the Lakers have more guys that have more years of experience. I think that matters. But this series is as simple as if Anthony Davis can, like you said, let Jokic do his thing and kind of do the Giannis thing or kind of do the let his guy have 50 or whatever. But like as we saw just a minute ago when I said it, like with the Anthony Davis block, if Anthony Davis is playing like he has this playoffs and he's able to at least neutralize Nikola in certain settings, so like in this case, post up defense, things like that, that's going to be the difference. The difference is going to be if Anthony Davis is that gravitational of a defender, which he has been. At his best, he's the best defender in the NBA. He's the best defender in the world. And we've seen that for Now 2 playoff rounds. Now we're going to have to really see it against the guy. And even if he struggles, that's going to be the difference. They lose games. It's going to be because Anthony Davis isn't like the Warriors used to pull him out into those switches. And then we saw like, oh, it can go south for the Lakers when that happens. But then again, he can also go face guard Steph like Kevin Love did in the finals. He did it 2 possessions in a row on the same possession, or 2 like ball, 2 chances in a row. Anthony Davis guarded Steph 30 feet out and he defended him both times. So the point is wherever he is on the floor, he's got to be gravitational, the same defender he's been for 2 playoff rounds, whether that's Jamal Murray attacking or whether that's, obviously Jokic is going to be important. Porter Jr. isn't attacking the basket like that. So Anthony Davis is going to have to be that impactful defender in any situation. I think that's going to be the difference.
And I think the trouble is, like, even beyond that, like you said, he's going to have to be so impactful. He's going to have to do that one-on-one because there cannot be doubles drawn. Because if Davis can't shut him down one-on-one, I'll guarantee you Jokic may not score much, but he's going to record 12 assists and Jamal Murray's going to have 35.
Yep.
Like, he'll be passing him open and getting them there. So it's like you got to shut him down and leave everybody else to get their assignment done.
It's really good stuff about the West. Let's land the plane and let's hit the East really fast. What kind of chance, the question I had for the East, what kind of chance are you actually giving the Heat? Give me a percentage chance in your head before the game plays tomorrow. What are you as a fan, or you as an analyst, or you as a Josh? What are you giving the the ESPN 97.3% thing that you saw, 97%?
Yeah, I think that's ridiculous.
What are you what do you believe right now? What percentage chance do you think the Heat actually win this series? My number might shock you.
I think it's like, I'm giving them like a 37.
Okay, we're a lot closer than I thought. I think there's a 45% chance they win this series. I think it's almost 50-50.
Yeah. Because the Heat are just a tough matchup from a basketball X's and O's perspective. Spoelstra is the best coach. Clearly, Spoelstra is like, the Heat are going to have the coaching advantage. Joe Mazzulla had a great year. He's had an incredible year stepping into a tough situation. Eric Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in the NBA.
Was it tough? They were the 1 seed last year, for Christ's sake. Was it tough? I don't know.
I
don't think I can't.
Gets the 2 seed in the playoffs or gets to the conference finals. I don't think a bad coach gets there.
That's fair. Doc Rivers didn't. You're right. Doc Rivers is the 3 seed, and he had James.
A bad coach doesn't get to the conference finals. I'll put it out there as that.
That's a fair point. It's a fair point. All the coaches left are good.
The Heat will have that advantage. Jimmy Butler. People might hate me. There's an argument Jimmy Butler. I was going to say Jimmy Butler when hot is the best player in the series. There's an argument Jimmy Butler's best player in the series. End of statement.
I think he is right now.
Yeah, like I know that people love Tatum, but like there's very much an argument Jimmy Butler's the best player on the floor. If Adebayo plays well, he can shut down the inside. Can Tatum and Brown both play good at the same time? I hate to retread ground that we talked about a year ago. Can Tatum and Brown contribute at the same time? Can Brogdon be the X factor coming off the bench and score a lot? That has been kind of the key to their success.
I know what you just said, and I just want to say this because I think it's really funny. As much as I just praise Anthony Davis, and as much as what I feel about him before LA and after LA, like I think he's one of the best players in the NBA, and he's deserving of everything he's achieved. Jimmy Butler's the second best player in the playoffs currently. let me just realize that live. Like that was a thing that just happened in my head when you said it. I was like Jokic.
I remembered.
That's right.
Okay. I remembered when you were going through like the like what would you be your MVP ballot. So I kind of did it at the same time. I'm not going to list off what would have been my MVP ballot here, but I did kind of do it at the time. Jimmy Butler would have been in my top 5 votes this year. I know the Heat didn't have a great season.
Yeah.
As a team, but Jimmy Butler would have been in my top 5 votes.
Yeah, kept them relevant. It's fair. Yeah. SGA was a 10 seed. He was my top. Mm-hmm. He was top 5. He was 4th on my MVP ballot. That doesn't matter. Like, I mean, it can matter. It matters in situations. I'm not going to say it's diluted, but it's so interesting because, like, I will eat crow because there's someone currently listening or watching this on YouTube, and they're like, "You're the idiot with Grayson a month ago that picked Jimmy Butler to not make All NBA team," and it's one of my biggest regrets in my career. I'll be honest with you. It's a fake ballot. If the NBA gave me a real ballot and I actually did that, he probably would have been on it. I'll be honest. Let me just hate to be revisionist history here for a second, but I do regret Jimmy Butler being on there over Lowry. Okay, but Larry Markin had an unbelievable year, and the Jazz exceeded expectation mightily. The Heat did not. So I was like, well, here we go. And Lowry's stats, believe it or not, across the board were actually really all better. So I was like, well, Why would I pick Jimmy Butler? Because he's Jimmy Butler. I don't like to be that guy. But
People would
no,
have roasted my ballot anyway because Demonis Sabonis would have been on there too. So
Sabonis was on the Basketball Reference MVP tracker. He was top 5
yeah,
most of the year until basically the last month of the season. So it's actually not that far fetched. So with the Celtics, let's get this out here now so we can get closed up. We talked about the Heat, the percentage chance, Jimmy Butler. We know it's obvious. Like there's some things that are just, I mean, don't need to be said, right? Like the Heat have a roster of 6 undrafted free agents that are playing meaningful minutes. No offense to any of them. I've always
doesn't
made
mean
this clear.
anything once you get in there and start
Exactly.
balling, dude.
It just is. There's this very obvious. I had a conversation with somebody today about this. There's this very obvious point of emphasis on the depth. And I know that once you get in the playoffs, you play your best 7 to 8 guys. But Boston, I mean, it's going to take a lot for them to lose this series pretty bad, like the Heat did to Milwaukee. Obviously, an injury, yada, 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 to best player. But I think Boston just has too much depth, and I think they're getting it figured out. And I think Missoula, where I would obviously previously have dragged him through the mud, like I have some of these decisions in these playoffs, I think he's figured out that Marcus Smart isn't his best guy in crunch time all the time. So I think he's realizing that Derek White is going to be really important in this series where he's going to have to. Derek White can outplay Kyle Lowry, and they win this series pretty handily. Like I think it's that simple a little bit because Kyle Lowry has been. I mean, we saw it in game 1 against New York when New York obviously had the lead. Jimmy Butler goes down. They go to extend the lead. Kyle Lowry brings him back. He has 30 plus. Like it's that simple. Kyle Lowry has a impactful game here and there. Miami's going to make this really weird, really quick. But Derek White's been that important, and that's why he was an all defensive candidate or first team all in defensive player or second team, whatever it was. He was a top 10 defender in the NBA this year, and it was absolutely warranted. And he's going to be the difference maker on either Kyle Lowry or in some situations on Jimmy Butler, obviously, but I think they'll stick primary defenders like Brown and other guys on him. So I think Boston's matchup stuff is going to be very simple. They're just going to have to make sure that their best guys off the bench are doing well in those moments. And then obviously you don't know what you're going to get with Tatum and Brown sometimes, like you said, at the same time or at all. Like there was games against Philly where they just both didn't show up and yet the games were still close. So it's like, that just shows you how important the depth is for Boston. So I don't want to drag Philly through the mud. One of my good friends is a Philly fan. I just don't want to do that to him. But at the same time, like Boston should have won that series in 5. So, and they didn't. Anything else about the East? Anything fun? Any prediction that you're like, Jimmy Butler's going to do it? Anything fun like that to clip and put out there?
No, I'm kind of having
close,
more
though.
fun out west, to be honest.
I am too, as it's currently happening. So.
The Nuggets really are the only team I'm left rooting for at this point. So
that's fair. So stake your claim then. Who makes the finals and who wins the finals? I'll do that to every guest now. It became a running joke.
Nuggets, Celtics, Nuggets in 6.
I'm like, okay, you didn't even try to like hesitate. You're like, why would I? It's Nuggets in 6. I am with you. I think as currently constructed, I think the Nuggets win in 6 against Boston. But again, don't be shocked if Brown has a bad. They are able to basically put Brown in a place where he's able to be ineffective, and then Tatum has to do like a 45-point game. I think Denver probably wins in 5, like I said earlier. So, and I stand by that. So, unfortunately, obviously, that means the Lakers would lose. And as of right now, as we're closing this podcast up, it is 47-61 as Michael. Let me just back up. It is 47-64. Michael Porter Jr. just hit a 3 with a minute and 40 seconds left in the second quarter. So obviously the result of this game will be very obvious once this podcast goes out in the morning, like I've said before. But it's going to be a heck of a week and a half or so, 2 weeks, whatever it is for the finals. Finals start on June 1st. So obviously we'll know very, very soon. It's May 16th. So yeah, 2 weeks.
They start on June 1st?
They start on June 1st.
That feels like it's a long ways away. Like,
it's 14 days from now.
No, I guess that makes sense.
Like, 15.
Of teams
Memorial
playing
Day.
every other day.
Yeah, and Memorial Day is,
you
got to remember, it's 31 days in May. I have to remember that too. So, all right, my friend, sorry about Victor, but first of all, thank you for coming back. I appreciate doing this, and it was funny. I'll have to tell the story really fast, but I feel bad because I didn't ask you. And I get a text from Josh maybe a week and a half before the lottery. I think right when I announced the playback stream. Shout out to Playback for the opportunity tonight. But I get a text and it says, end quote, fine, I'm in. and I literally like hesitated, looked back and went, I didn't text him at all.
You did invite me a month earlier. You asked if you could
there you go.
Record my reaction.
Well, I got even better. I got a whole podcast out of you. So thank you. I appreciate it. Do you have anything you want to plug? This is so interesting doing it.
I
It's
do
so weird
not.
asking you that question because I'm so used to.
I'm not really on anything. Don't follow me.
Okay, all right. If you need us, we'll be talking NBA playoffs in a text thread, or we'll be talking Big Brother. So thank you, my friend.
Yep, thanks.
Hope you enjoyed that episode with Josh. Super happy and grateful to have him back as a guest. I know that sounds really weird. Previously, as a host of the show, we talked a lot of really good stuff with the lottery and NBA playoffs. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you're on YouTube. On podcast platforms, 5-star rating and a review is greatly appreciated. Share with your friends throughout social medias. All the 2-pointers links will be in the description below. Don't forget to check out SeatGeek, link in the top of the description, $20 off your first purchase, making sure that you get the best deal on those tickets throughout the summer to whatever you're doing. Thank you so much for watching. On behalf of Josh, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later.